Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing an updated video, going to be giving my thoughts on how the show would have gone, what would have happened if Shane had killed Rick at the end of season 2. All right, good stuff. So this is one I have kind of talked about before, doing discussion topics for the last 2 years in season 2. These types of things come up, quite a bit. But this is one that people kind of asked me recently because more specifically, they wanted to know what my thoughts are on how Shane would handle certain circumstances that we've seen now all the way through to the end of season 4. So, in comparison to how Rick handles things, how Shane handles things. Well, this one is kind of tough to do because it raises a lot of questions. It's a big time what if type topic. So if he was to do that, going into The Walking Dead Season 3. So The Walking Dead Season 2 would end. Let's assume the herd that's nearby after Shane killed Rick still went for the farm, let's assume, because, there was a lot of them anyway. They probably would have stumbled close by or heard them or seen them during the day or something of the sort. So let's assume sooner or later the group got knocked off the farm. Whether or not they would have found the prison, it's a tough call to say if Shane was the leader of the group. He did have his eyes set on Fort Benning, and I don't remember whether or not he found out that Fort Benning was basically overrun like Rick did. Rick kind of knew that it was because I believe Dave and Tony, what they said in the bar, I think they told him, didn't they? My memory serves me correct. I believe they did. But let's assume that Shane still wanted to make a try for it because he did seem pretty, his head was pretty set on trying that anyway. So let's assume they did and it didn't work out, which we know it probably wouldn't have, and then eventually they moved onward. Would they have found the prison? Would they not have? It's Shane was a lot different versus Rick. We didn't see what he got to evolve into past, of course, the end of season 2, so we don't know if he would have taken the chance to go in hand to hand and try to take over something like the prison. For sake of the what if type scenario, let's assume they did find it. Let's assume they decided they would do that. I think that if he was in that type of circumstance and they were able to get in there and everything was mostly the same, the situation with Lori may have turned out different because the thing with Shane is that he quickly kind of turned, whereas Rick took longer to, versus other people. So he kind of early on season 2 had changed more quickly to kind of understand that world better and know what he would have to become, whereas Rick kind of more gradually learned that over time. Shane, he kind of got that right away, that he was going to have to become used to basically killing other people in order for his group to survive, which he did do earlier on in season 2. So if he met those prisoners there, Andrew and the others, and Thomas and all that, I tend to kind of think that he would have just lit them up. He would have basically killed them all instantly. He would have maybe been nice to them, kind of tricked them, and then maybe just shotgunned them all down. He would have just annihilated them, I would think. I don't think being a police officer, he'd be as lenient as Rick and give them a chance to live nearby or anything of the sort, or even to leave. He'd probably just put them down instantly once he found out what was there, once he found out how valuable the place is. Because remember, he's not Rick. He's already turned. He's already killed Otis in season 2. He would have killed Rick. He would, after that point, go to any bounds, right? So he would be more like the governor, where when he meets other people, he's going to be looking to kill them. He's going to be looking to take their stuff versus trying to befriend them or whatever the case may be. Whereas Rick, even still with the Terminus thing, is kind of doing that to a degree. Even though they got the questions and that kind of stuff, it would have been a lot different if Shane had been in charge. So whether or not Lori would have survived or not, it's hard to say. Did she need to have the C-section due to the situation because of the stress and everything they were under at that time? Would she have been able to have the baby normally and survive maybe? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I think we can probably assume sooner or later Lori would have died anyway because she was never really a strong survivor. She was a damsel in distress, so to speak, and those types of characters don't last very long in a zombie apocalypse. So sooner or later, I'd say she probably would die. I don't think Lori would be able to change, even if she survived that, to be able to defend herself, that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to the governor, would he have handled it better than Rick was able to if he met up with the governor, if the same type of circumstances happened? Oh, man, that's a tough one to say. He might have left. To be honest with you, because, see, he was kind of hot-headed, but I think he may have saw what the governor had and just tried to get out of there. So, in leaving, not staying at the prison, he probably would have left season 3, that type of thing. Now, the events of Terminus, I think he'd be too smart to fall for the whole sanctuary thing. I don't even think he would go there, or if he did, he'd probably go there to rob them if he was the leader of this group. And it's also hard to say whether or not the group would have even stayed together because you had Daryl, he didn't like him, so he probably would have left, whatever the case may be, especially if he met Merle at Woodbury or something. It's really hard to say with these what if type topics, type circumstances, but I'd probably say the group, I want to say they'd have almost a better chance of survival, but with Shane as leader versus Rick because he's so cold to outsiders. But I think ultimately in the end that would be his downfall because if you mess with certain groups, I mean, people are really dangerous, right? And even though he put on a strong, aggressive stance at the beginning, he wouldn't be able to add on numbers like Rick has in order to survive better. Rick always throughout the series, and the comic book series we see this too, which eventually will probably go on the same line as they do in the comic books, and that is that if you aren't open to new people, if you aren't open to meeting people in a zombie apocalypse and other groups and trying to take people in and that kind of stuff, then your group is going to lose people and it's going to be small and it's going to shrink over time. So if he wasn't, more open, which he wasn't open to others. We saw how he had trouble with even Herschel, that kind of stuff. It'd be really hard to survive and keep your group together when you don't have numbers, you're losing people, and you're not adding on more people, right? So over the long term, even though at first I want to kind of say that, in certain circumstances, being that villain type character that he is, he would do better at the beginning. Later on, I think because he would have smaller numbers, eventually would work its way down, with the group. I think he probably would do worse off overall, right? As a leader, of course. Unless if you're the main character, you kind of, the writer's not really going to kill you. You're going to want to, he's going to want to have you survive for a bigger purpose later on. But I don't think the group would be better off in the long run because even though Rick's got them into this circumstance with the whole Terminus thing, you can't completely shut out others either, like Abraham and the others. You can't completely shut out new people from coming into your group, that type of thing. And I think that Shane may have had trouble with that. So I don't know. It's a big time what if question. There's a lot of different ways it could go in terms of how he would have dealt with situations. I think he would have dealt with the governor's group. Much similar to how Rick did, but I think once he found out about their firepower, he'd probably want to get the hell out of there. It's kind of a pretty smart thing to do. Rick's group didn't necessarily do that. I think he would have, which worked out for them better, actually. But, and then going on from there with the whole Terminus thing and that, he'd probably be too smart for that. But, he'd run into other problems as well, too. And he may not be able to keep good people around like Daryl, who's saved Rick, a good amount of times now, right? That type of thing. So that's kind of what I want to say is that in the long run, I think Rick would be better suited to lead a group, and he would, lead a group better in the long run. Even though it's a horror show, so they have to constantly get in trouble. But logically, you'd think that by letting others join, by doing that, because the illness, what if they had the illness happen and there was only a small amount of characters in the group left, right? Then it would have been, it could have been a really bad situation because it could have spread amongst them, and then they may not have had the strength to get through that, depending. Herschel wasn't on his side, so he probably wouldn't have Herschel, right, to help those people and all these different things. So, yeah, without the numbers, without adding on people like that and shutting people out the way he kind of did, I don't think he'd be as good of a leader. So anyway, those are kind of my thoughts on what would have happened if Shane had killed Rick. Lori, I think, would have maybe survived a little bit longer, but she would have died probably eventually anyway. The governor situation, he would have probably ran, I want to think. And the Terminus thing he would never probably get himself into. But Joe's group may have given him quite a bit of trouble, depending. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that. There's no right or wrong answer to this. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you think he would have been better than Rick at leading the group over the long term, if you think he would have dealt with these situations better, let me know what you think. Anyway, I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev, as always, saying peace.